is Kevin Pino, and I am an account executive here at Aviso.
All right, so thank you so much for joining us, Kevin, and helping kickstart this series of internal interviews. I'm really looking forward to learning more about your role and perspective of working at Aviso. So I guess we can just get started with a couple questions about why you joined Aviso and what you do here.
So I joined Aviso about a year ago, October of 2019. And what really inspired me to join the company was just looking at the vision that Trevor had laid out and where the product was at the time I joined Aviso, but really the roadmap and where we were going. It was something like I had never seen before in a SaaS product. And knowing the difficulties of navigating deals, especially at the enterprise level, having the intelligence and the insights and guidance across data and multiple sources of information that we are required to use, in sales, really inspired me. Not only as something that I wanted to use, but that I thought I could, would be useful to my peers and my colleagues and other people in sales. That's really what kind of drove me to take this position.
And what does a typical day look like for you at Aviso?
At Aviso, typical day, I wake up, dive into our Moxtra channels, right, where we communicate back and forth on whether it's deals, customers, answer any outstanding questions I might have. Then I'll typically, if I don't have any morning meetings, dive into opportunity follow-ups. There's typically always something going on with my customer accounts, just ensuring that, things are going the way they should. I'm communicating with my CSMs, anybody on the engineering team. And as the day progresses, try to weave in, prospecting and tapping into new accounts. But I am in meetings pretty frequently throughout the day. And then obviously homeschooling. Homeschooling with my children. I have two small kids. Yeah, it's a bit challenging.
Yeah, I got to juggle multiple jobs at once.
Mm-hmm.
And do you think you could walk me through some of the highlights that you've had working at Aviso?
So within my first year, amid a pandemic, I've been able to bring in 3 net new logos, which has been exciting. Have been able to secure renewals across my entire customer base, which I think is pretty exciting considering when you look across the board and hearing what our customers are saying is, they're losing a lot of customers due to the pandemic. So I think that speaks to not only the team that we have here at Aviso and CSMs on the accounts, but also the need for the product, right? And what it really delivers to our customer base. So I would say those are the main highlights, but obviously being able to help and coach new people that come on board as well. It's a kind of a baptism by fire, if you will, when you come into this job and trying to learn a lot of different things, but you're really kind of thrown in to the mix right away. There's not a whole lot of ramp time. It's get in and go.
Right. Cool. That's great to hear. Thank you for sharing those. And obviously COVID has shifted work to a virtual setting for the past couple of months. What has your experience been like since shifting to remote work? I know you said you have 2 kids at home, and if you have any tips on how to stay productive and motivated throughout the day.
Yeah, good question. So the work from home hasn't really changed anything for me. I was in a work from home position prior to coming to Aviso. So I'd already had about a year and a half under my belt of managing that. The biggest change, however, is now having the entire household here, right? That is an extreme challenge. So in order to stay productive, it's all about time management. I would say, getting up early enough to start your day, knowing that it's going to be disrupted at 7:30 in the morning when the kids get up and they got to have breakfast, and then you got to get them ready to get on their Zoom calls. Right. And balancing my calendar with my wife's calendar because, they're 6 and 7 years old. So they're not really able to do their schoolwork on their own at this point for the most part. So blocking out time in the calendar, I think is key, and sharing that information, obviously, with people in the house. So you can coordinate back and forth. It's really the only way that you're going to accomplish anything productive throughout the day. If you don't, the day gets away from you pretty quickly. So staying motivated, I don't know. that's, that's hard. It feels like Groundhog Day every day, right? It's the same
Right.
every day, but
Right.
get out, get fresh air, take walks when you can, change the scenery. That's really the only thing you can do to keep a fresh mindset.
Right. Totally. Well, props to you and your wife for juggling all of that. I definitely find it challenging to stay focused with so many distractions at home too. So those are great tips. Kind of along the same lines of COVID, what are you hearing from prospects and customers about shifting to virtual selling during this time?
Yeah, so it really depends on the customer. I think it's a bigger challenge for those businesses and organizations that required, the vast majority of their employees to be in an office setting. They weren't really prepared or set up for virtual engagement. Right
Right.
now, a lot of you think about some folks are inside sellers and they're dealing with a particular group of prospects. I think there's still a bit of a shift by not going into the office setting, but they're not the ones that are meeting face to face with their prospects. However, on the flip side, like myself, I was definitely, even though I work from home at Aviso, before all of this, we would still be traveling, whether it was to the Bay Area or anywhere else, to meet face to face with our customers, key decision makers on opportunities. So when you lose that engagement, everything becomes virtual. Everything becomes, like what we're doing now. So definitely, I think flipping your video camera on is key, right? You still want that human interaction. But that's the biggest challenge, I think, is, being able to read your prospects and your customers and build that relationship that, really, even though we're doing these virtual meetings and they are a great way to do things, it's still just not the same as being in person. So I think having to kind of reimagine what that process looks like and how the sellers are going to now engage with companies that they're not able to have face-to-face meetings. So that's, I think, the biggest challenge, as well as how do sales leadership engage with their sales reps, right, and their team. I think that's another big challenge, and really what's driving a lot of the interest in Aviso is our collaboration rooms and the deal rooms that we have. That's been a really a hot topic for a lot of the companies that are taking a hard look at Aviso.
Right. Yeah, I think those trends definitely kind of apply to, because I'm an undergraduate student, and that kind of applies to school and like professors as well. And like turning on our camera during class kind of just, it makes it a little bit better, but it definitely isn't the same as being in person.
This is the best you
But
can do to humanize it. Yeah.
exactly, yeah. But I think since interning here, it does seem like many businesses have kind of learned to adapt to virtual selling and preparing for a new normal post-pandemic. So that's something that I've noticed as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So what are your thoughts on guided selling?
My thoughts on guided selling. Well, I will say this. It has, I guess, for a lack of a better term, exposed some of the gaps maybe in my process, or things that maybe I need to pay a little bit more attention to as I work through, especially at the enterprise level. There are many different layers of that process, and that could be particular contacts. Maybe I'm spending a little bit too much time with, without getting above the line. For me, I think it's helped me become more aware of the actual process itself. Right. And from my manager's perspective and the one-on-one conversations and meetings that we have from a coaching standpoint, that's where we can start to have the conversations of my process and areas maybe I've missed, but looking at what is Aviso telling me and where is the guidance kind of coming from. So I think it's critical now, that especially that we're entering into this kind of complete digital world of selling, to have that, because it's very easy to get lost when we're not having those in-person meetings and doing some of the things that maybe we're more accustomed to, where it becomes completely virtual. So I think guided selling is the future, with the use of artificial intelligence, because companies are using so many different tools. A lot of that data is not being funneled into one place, which can make it difficult or overwhelming to try to access that data and make something out of it and interpret what is the data telling me. Whereas a solution like Aviso, pretty much gives me the information and the insights as to why I'm being sent a notification or what it's doing. I'm not having to go hunt that information down, or again, trying to interpret, what does this mean? Okay, you sent it to me, but what does it actually mean?
Right. Yeah, I think especially in the current climate, digital transformation is huge for businesses right now. And from doing internal and external research, I think Aviso's product really allows for that maximum effectiveness and productivity. So yeah, that's great insight. Kind of moving on to the last question I have for you. I was wondering what thoughts you had on Aviso's new product features, or if you can share any insight on what you're most excited about in regards to these new features. For example, the path to plan feature during COVID-19, or the customer channels, or just anything else you want to touch on.
Yeah, believe it or not, I think under unfortunate circumstances, but whether or not we went into the pandemic or not, I think the things I laid out about guided selling and AI, I truly believe we're already the future, again, which is why I came to Aviso.
Right.
But the fact that COVID has thrown so many businesses off course and has kind of removed the ability to rely so heavily on historical data has played a huge role in it. So when I think about things like our collaboration rooms, digital war rooms, where you see a company like Gong is going with their announcement of additional funding, and really what AI is bringing into kind of the digital world of selling, it's exciting to see that there's validation in the marketplace for what we're doing. So not just from hearing that feedback from our customers and prospects, but when you think about a company like Gartner that continues to publish, the future of sales, or what is sales going to look like post-pandemic. And it really, Aviso really aligns with a lot of the key things that they say, to be successful in the future, these are the things that you need to adapt to and be aware of. And they're really in line with Aviso's value propositions, right? When you look at Aviso compared to some of our competitors in the marketplace, we are a step above in terms of the product offering. And that's really a testament to our product roadmap and what kind of the vision of Trevor, our CEO, has really mapped out for Viveso.
Right. Awesome.
Oh, the other thing from the COVID-19 perspective, yeah, you had asked about that. Mm-hmm. That's been tough on sales to kind of predict where there's underlying risk, especially if you're continuing to stay engaged with whoever your key contacts are, at whether it's customers or prospects. With Aviso's AI and some of the information that we're looking at through the lens of COVID, and that could be, sector, could be region where there's been, heavier impacts and lockdowns and things like that. I mean, we're heading into the winter and fall months. What is COVID going to look like for the world in the months to come when the flu season ramps up? So we're providing that extra layer of insight, and whether we feel that there could be additional risk or even upside to those businesses, not necessarily relying so heavily on human instinct and gut, but more of just be aware of this. This is where things can, change or manipulate your pipeline. So I think it's a huge win for businesses to leverage that and get a little bit more information than maybe what their sales reps are telling them or what they feel.
Right. Awesome. Well, that about wraps it up. Those are the only questions that I have for you. Thank you so much for sharing your insight. Those were great responses. And I've been interning here for a couple weeks now, and that definitely helped expand my knowledge of Aviso's products as well. So thank you so much for taking the time to chat.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Kimberly. Good talking with you.
Awesome.